Good afternoon, Chairman Brewer and my colleagues on the Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm Megan Hunt, M-E-G-A-N-H-U-N-T, and I represent District 8 in Midtown Omaha. I'm here to introduce LB364, which would require that all county election commissioners be elected rather than appointed. I'm carrying this bill forward after a few previous bills from Senator Matt Hansen. When Senator Hansen last brought the bill in 2021, he asked the committee not to take any action on the bill because there were court proceedings unfolding at the time that could have affected the bill. Since then, that has all been settled, so I wanted to revisit the issue. In 2019, Civic Nebraska approached senators about what appeared to be a conflict between our statutes and the Nebraska Constitution when it comes to the appointment of county election commissioners. Article 9, Section 4 of the Nebraska Constitution states that all county officers must be elected, while the statute provides for county election commissioners to be appointed, either by the governor or by the county board, depending on the county size. So the question at hand was whether county election commissioners were indeed county officers and thus subject to that constitutional election requirement that we have for other county offices or not, and thus subject to the statutes. Senator Hansen requested and received in 2019 an Attorney General's opinion on that matter, and the Attorney General said that our statutes authorizing the appointment of election commissioners were, quote, constitutionally suspect, and predicted that the statutes would be overturned if brought to the state Supreme Court. After that, a case was brought in Lancaster County District Court on behalf of a voter who challenged our statutes. The district court judge in that case ruled that our statutes are constitutional, contrary to the interpretation in the Attorney General's opinion. The AG's office appealed that decision, sending it to the higher Nebraska State Supreme Court. The Supreme Court affirmed the lower court's ruling, upholding the constitutionality of the statutes. The court's conclusion was that the Constitution gives broad authority to the legislature to determine the necessity of choosing county officers by election, and that the legislature has determined, by passing laws, that election commissioners and their deputies are not county officers. Basically, the court said that the legislature has made it clear that it does not intend to consider county election commissioners as county officers that must be elected because of the statutes we've enacted. That brings me to where things stand with LB 364. Excuse me. Just because the court did not find our statutes unconstitutional does not mean that we don't have a good reason to change them or clarify them. In Nebraska, all of our other county officers are elected pursuant to that constitutional provision. The Attorney General opinion described how county election commissioners meet the definition of county officers in that they take oaths, they have a set term of 4 years, they are responsible for enforcing the Election Act, and promulgating rules and regulations under the Act. The Supreme Court's reasoning for upholding the statutes was largely based on the legislature's authority to make and enact laws about the Election Act and enforcement thereof. So nothing is saying that we can't change it, and they affirmed that the legislature has the full authority to do so. The fact that in our largest and some of our mid-sized counties, the people in charge of objectively and neutrally administering the Election Act are appointed by a governor or county board and not the people of that county seems wrong. For Nebraskans to have faith in the integrity of their county's election systems, they must have a voice in selecting the most appropriate person to lead them. I think the communities know best, and it is they who should get to choose their election commissioner. LB 364 provides that county election commissioners are elected, and it eliminates the appointment of their deputies. They can still hire staff to support the work of their office. In the vast majority of counties, an elected county clerk is already handling election duties. Why should the citizens in some counties get to elect their elections official, but not others? It makes sense that the person in charge of a county's elections should be accountable to its voters, just like all other county officers are. With that, I would be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you. Let's see if we can have some questions for you. Questions for Senator Hunt? Yes, Senator Riggle.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. In some of the rulings, or I guess the opinion of the AG, how how far back did they check the history? How long have we kind of carved out the election commissioners in the county are appointed? Did it say how long back that?
Can you restate the question? I'm not sure I understand.
So the question is, how long have we in Nebraska been having our election commissioners appointed? Is it for like 30, 40, 50 years? I know as a county commissioner, he had to run for office. So as did the county sheriff, as the county attorney. They all have to run for office. And so I always wondered why the election commissioner was appointed. Each county election commissioner.
I'm skimming the opinion right now,
Okay.
And
I'm just curious.
It looks like maybe 1937, but
1937.
I should be careful about saying that on the record without
Okay.
reading it more carefully.
I'm just kind of curious
Mm-hmm.
because as a county commissioner, I thought it was odd.
This is definitely knowable information, so I wish I could say it on the record right now, but
Okay.
but we'll get it on the record at some
Thank you.
point. Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? Yes, Senator Halloran.
Thank you, Chairman Brewer. Thanks for this bill. So you made a comment that having election commissioners appointed feels wrong.
Forget I said feels. I know you hate that word. Pretend I said that I think we should do it a different way.
You're asking me to erase something from my memory bank.
Just delete the hard drive, yeah.
Well, I think sometimes first impressions are the best impressions.
They're hard to forget, aren't they?
They are hard to forget. So I'm having some difficulty wrapping my arms around the reason why, the benefit for election versus appointment, or what's the harm of the appointment process.
I might have said seems wrong. That's what my notes say anyway. But I think, as I said, we elect our county officers. There are some election commissioners who are elected and some who are appointed, and I think we should do it the same way. And I think we can trust the people in these counties to select the person who's going to administer the Elections Act in that county. I would give it to the voters. I'm not afraid of letting the voters select their election commissioner.
Part of the process we're looking at here, I think, and I'm going to draw a parallel with the legislature. We make elections of certain people, committee chairs, for example, within the legislature, the body. The voters vet us as legislators to represent them, and then we carry on with duties from that point on in the legislature, according to the rules. And so with the legislature, we don't allow for the voters to vote for committee chairs, for example. It's done by us as a body to appoint those as chairs. How is that? To me, there's a strong parallel between that and what we're doing with appointing election commissioners.
I'll have to think about that. I feel like we don't let the voters, we don't let all of our constituents vote on the bills that we vote on. We don't let them vote on if bills are coming out of committee. I mean, obviously, I'm saying obvious things, but this is just a question of representation. I mean, what if the President of the United States appointed all the state senators? What if, because the governor can appoint the election commissioner. So to me, it's just a question of who is this county official accountable to? Is it accountable to the executive branch? Are they accountable to whoever appointed them? Or are they accountable to the voters that they're actually representing? And I just don't think there's ever harm in more accountability to voters.
So will we run into the same situation with electing commissioners that we discussed previously on having a primary in the election process and the politics involved in that process if we elect them?
Probably.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Senator Riddle.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. Just jumping back to what the AG's office said, I think the AG's office thought that it was unusual that the election commissioners were their county officers, but the AG's office thought it was unusual. I think it's unusual too. However, having served in county government, I think it's also unusual that we elect our county engineer, our sheriff, and some of these other offices. It just seems like a very antiquated form of government. But having said that, when I think of an election commissioner, their office is quite important. And just like in some of the counties, it becomes the responsibility of the county clerk to manage and be in charge of the elections, which is a very important, I mean, here we are talking about elections quite a bit in this committee, and it's so important. And so I do think it's unusual, particularly when the AG flags something like this and writes an opinion. But Senator Hunt, what else did the AG's office say? I know you read something in their opinion about them being treated as county officers, or I don't remember. Sorry.
Yes, and to answer your previous question, in the AG opinion, it says Nebraska has had a statute requiring the governor to appoint an election commissioner in a county of a certain population since 1913.
Oh,
and I think all of us have learned in our short time as lawmakers that sometimes the reason for laws is weird. And it doesn't mean it's bad or not working, but it doesn't mean it might not necessarily be consistent. And this is certainly not consistent, like the way we appoint or elect all kinds of county officials. And again, it doesn't mean it's not working. I mean,
Right.
Elections are happening. It's all going well. We have a secure election system in Nebraska, but I still think that it would be improved with more accountability to the voters in those counties.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Senator Hunt? All right, thank you. You'll stick around to close?
Thank you.
All right.